Every unclean spirit gotta leave out of your children's bedroom, out of your bedroom, out of the living room, out of the dining room, out of the den, out of your back porch. It can't stay there. It can't linger. In the name of Jesus, clear house, Lord. Clean house, Lord. Clean my house. Clean my house. Clean my house. Anoint my bed. I shall sleep like a baby tonight. Every tormented spirit, they gotta loose me and let me go. They gotta loose my children. They gotta loose my husband. They gotta loose my wife. They got to loose me. That's it. Come on. Fight for your house. Come on, warriors. Fight for your house. Your house been under attack. But I command your house, so shy. I command it to come in order. Ooh, Sheba. Ooh, I command your house to come in order. I command your house to come in order. I command your house to come in order. I command, where my warriors at? Where my warriors? Fight. Fight for your house. Fight for your house. You should not fight no more in your house, but your house should be your safety. Your house should be the house of peace. Your house should be the house of prayer. Your house should be the house of strength. I command your atmosphere to come subject under the word of the Lord. To come subject. I arrest the spirit in your house that come to disturb the peace. I command it in the name of Jesus. I command it in the name of Jesus. Hey, I said in the name, 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 in the name. In the name of Jesus. But that name is a strong tower. But that name is mighty. For that name is powerful. I command every spirit to come subject under that name Jesus. For at the name Jesus, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess, every demon tremble. At the name of Jesus, cancer gotta go. At the name of Jesus, breast cancer, the lump in the breast gotta go. Lung cancer gotta go. Tumor in the brain gotta go. High blood pressure gotta go. Diabetes gotta go. At the name of Jesus, 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 Jesus. Jesus, 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 Jesus. When the enemy find me in my mind, I call on the name Jesus. When the enemy find my family, I call on the name Jesus. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Jesus. When I don't know what else to do, I call on the name of Jesus. When I don't know which way to turn, I call on the name of Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. When I call the name Jesus, my children gotta line up. When I call the name Jesus, my finances gotta line up. When I call the name Jesus, my mind gotta line up. My emotions gotta line up. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Oh, Jesus, wonderful counselor. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Oh, Jesus. We 6 minutes over. We 6 minutes over time. Jesus, 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 Jesus. I'm tired of crying. Jesus, 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 Jesus. When I can't call on my mama, I can't call on my daddy. When I can't call on my leader, I call on their precious name, Jesus, 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 hey, Jesus, hey, Jesus, hey. We trust in the name of Jesus. Some trust in horses, some trust in chariots, but we shall trust. We shall trust in the name of the Lord. Oh, Jesus. Jesus, 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 Jesus.